I'm Maren. I'm a PhD student from Germany. I'm currently enrolled at the University of Oldenburg in my third year, third and final year, hopefully. And I'm also working as a freelance editor and lecturer, living in Karlsruhe, so in the southern part of Germany. And my research focus is on sufficiency-based business models and sustainable consumer practices. So I'm basically looking into business models that can make us consume less instead of more.
Thank you. So the topic of the 2021 NBM conference is New Business Models in a Decade of Action, sustainable, evidence-based, impactful. What is your perception of those key concepts? In what way would you say that your scientific work has been related to the SDGs?
Well, my work, I think, is especially related, of course, to SDG number 12, sustainable consumption and production, as I'm looking into business models, their value creation, their environmental and social impact, and of course, sustainable consumption practices at the moment, especially in the outdoor clothing industry, for example, because we see some really great examples of companies changing their business models towards more sustainable ones there. Many companies thus also contribute indirectly or directly to the SDGs number 13, 14, and 15, of course, by engaging with environmental and social aspects, of course, as well. So indirectly, my work might be related to climate action, life below water, life on land as well. But of course, more directly to SDG number 12 and slightly also to SDG number 8, although not an economist, but of course, if we talk about sufficiency and consumption reduction, we touch upon the topic of economic growth as an SDG number 8. So as sufficient, the whole concept of sufficiency, of course, is closely related to the whole post-growth discourse. So I guess my work is tapping into that as well.
That's great. What does the evidence-based part of the theme mean to you and to your work?
For my work, that means empirical research, basically. So we've worked on a conceptual level on the business models at first, and now we're actually conducting an empirical qualitative research on sufficiency-oriented business models and sufficiency-promoting marketing. So we go to companies, we talk to the representatives, ask them, what concept do you already use? What does that mean to you? What does work for you, in which context, what are difficulties and opportunities? So to really learn from practice and to then transfer that back, of course, into our research and theory.
And the impactful part then, what does that mean to you and your work?
That's a very interesting question, actually. So my main motivation for my PhD actually was to ask, like, how can businesses support more sustainable consumption and production patterns? So which impact, and that means positive impact, can they have on the whole climate debate? So if we are looking into sufficiency-oriented business models, I would say we ask, like, how can they contribute to transforming our economy and consumer practices as well? Which alternative consumption practices do they actually enable and how? And then hopefully to be able to evaluate also what impact do they actually have, not just the intention of the company, but also measuring the results, which is quite difficult actually. That's the impact on the research side. And then on a wider basis, I would say my goal would be to report the results of our research back into the community, back to the practitioners, to have an impact with our research as well, so that we can give recommendations, for example, that we can learn from each other, like research and the business world.
Okay. How do you think that the NBM community can accelerate the practical implementations of the body of knowledge that it has generated?
I think starting from what I just mentioned, like reporting the results from our empirical research back to the businesses, of course, but in a brief and practical manner. So I don't think we can expect business representatives to read through 20 pages of scientific papers, but to condense that, to make it short and sexy. So to engage more in science communication, Also on social media, LinkedIn, for example, I mean, that's the media that's used by practitioners, right? And also to increase the collaboration and the communication with the business representatives and sort of mingle with them, also on their own conferences, I think. So it's good for us to have our scientific conferences, but it might also be super interesting to tap into the practitioners' conferences and to make our voices heard there as well. Because I think that's the most direct access and way of communication we can probably have on a bigger scale. And for all of that, I think we might also need a different kind of understanding of research and the responsibility of researchers. So not just, let's say, sitting in our office and trying to understand and describe a status quo and working with theory, but to understand that maybe it's also our responsibility to generate recommendations and work together beyond academia and to work together with the businesses, which is of course a different understanding and role of researchers than we might have today.
Yeah, that's really interesting. What new business models do you think that we need in order to create a future that we want?
I think first of all, we need businesses in general to accept that they have a responsibility, and not only for their own revenue and their own employees, but for the entire supply chain regarding social, environmental impacts, and so on. So an understanding that entrepreneurship means responsibility for the community and for the environment. And more specifically, of course, as a sufficiency business model researcher, I would say we need business models that support a reduction of consumption by, for example, offering high quality, durable, fully circular, repairable products with a timeless and modular design. So products that can and want to be used for a lifetime. So to prolong product lifetimes, to create new revenue models that are not based on increased sales every year. And maybe also collaborative business models, or like the kind of sharing business models. So to get away from owning products and services to using them. So thus to decrease the amount of resources we need.
Great. And last question, why do you think that people should attend the MBM conference 2021?
First of all, it's a great community. It includes the top business model researchers in Europe and also a lot of early career researchers like me. And I think it has a great size, actually. It's big enough to have an impact and to be so that you're able to talk to very interesting people and hear a lot about the newest research. But yet it's still lucid enough to be very personal and relatable, and you start meeting people and get into personal contacts and stuff. And then I think the discussions are very constructive and respectful, which I personally love. So giving early career researchers such as myself, for example, sort of an equal opportunity to present our work and to be provided with very valuable feedback and to engage in a discourse ourselves. And I think lastly, I mean, okay, it's online this year, which is like super low barrier and it's very affordable as well. But earlier, what I really liked was that all the conference locations were accessible by train, which is definitely a plus for me because I want to avoid flying to the conferences. So it's very accessible, of course, to everyone. But the main point is it's a great, respectful, and fun community to work with. And I always take a lot of motivation from the NBM conferences back to my work desk.